Chapter 1156, Immortal Gu Perceivable Tao. Novella moment later, Fang Yuan controlled the hidden room oyster, becoming its new master. Pat, pat, pat. He patted the young Gu immortal's face. Wise choice, lad. The young Gu immortal had a stiff expression. He did not dare to move, but his eyes were burning with embarrassment and hatred. Fang Yuan ignored it. Next, he jumped up into the hidden room oyster, sitting in the young Gu immortal's former spot as he left. Before leaving, he even said, "My name is Chu Ying. I took your hidden room oyster. Remember to tell your grandfather." Looking at the hidden room oyster which had closed its shell and vanished into the currents, the young Gu immortal said with a forceful tone, "Good, Chu Ying. Don't worry. I have already transmitted your appearance to my grandfather. Young master, what do we do now?" The two beauties were crying. They were tugging the young Gu immortal's sleeves. The young Gu immortal's expression froze. The surrounding space was shrinking. The currents were about to form. His expression sank. With his strength, he could not enter this place. He got here thanks to the hidden room oyster. Don't worry. Even though the hidden room oyster is lost, I have my grandfather's traveling son Gu. I can return to the doting mother Gu, which is with my grandfather. The young Gu immortal gritted his teeth. That's great. We are saved. The two girls were overjoyed. Boom, boom. With two sounds, the two beautiful girls looked with shocked gazes. One looked at the bloody hole in her chest while the other looked at the young Gu immortal. Young master, you. The young Gu immortal had a grim expression. Both of you witnessed everything. Immediately after, he showed a look of pity. He stretched out of arm, touching the two beauties' faces. It is a pity. They are quite beautiful. It is all Chu Ying's fault. As he said that, he threw these two corpses into the current. Without the defensive methods of a Gu immortal, the mortal corpses were torn to shreds in the currents instantly. Seeing that this space was about to collapse, the young Gu immortal gritted his teeth, using traveling sun immortal Gu. This turbulent flow sea area had very chaotic Tao marks. The same applied to space path. Gu immortals could not use space path immortal Gu easily. The safest way was to travel normally, but the young Gu immortal was not using a space path immortal Gu now, but a motion path instead. Emotion path was a path originating from wisdom path. Wisdom path had three elements: thoughts, wills, emotions. Traveling Sun Gu and Doting Mother Gu were a set of famous immortal Gu in emotion path. When the turbulent flow sea area was formed, emotion path had not been created yet. Thus, at this moment, the young Gu immortal could use traveling Sun Gu without any danger. The young Gu immortal allowed the power of traveling Sun Gu to send him away that he seemed to have entered a long river. He felt groggy and dazed. A few minutes later, he regained his senses, realizing that he was inside Ren Xiaoping's blessed land. Grandfather, the young Gu immortal showed fear and unrest. Humph. While I was placing my immortal aperture to absorb heaven and earth chi and stabilize my blessed land, you sneaked out to have fun. If I knew this, I would not have given you the hidden room oyster for protection. Ren Xiaoping chided. Grandfather, the hidden room oyster was taken away. The young Gu immortal said in a distressed tone. I met a demon. He stole my hidden room oyster and killed my two servants. Oh, Ren Xiaoping's eyebrows rose. Tell me the details. The young Gu immortal added lots of inflammatory details as he explained. Chu Ying, Ren Xiaoping muttered, frowning that he had never heard of this name before. The two mortal girls were nothing, but a rank 7 Gu immortal approached and took away the hidden room oyster. This was the act of a demonic scoundrel. But why did he leave his name behind? Was he not Chu Ying but someone else? Trying to frame him? What ulterior motives did he have? But regardless, Ren Xiaoping memorized the name of Chu Ying. He had a cold expression as he lectured his grandson. Now, do you know about the cruelty of the Gu immortal world? Up until now, you have been around me. All you saw were immortals I was on good terms with. They had a warm attitude towards you, or even flattered you because of me. Now, you have to learn a lesson. I will punish you to 10 years of secluded cultivation. For the next 10 years, you have to stay in my immortal aperture and will not leave. What? The young Gu immortal was shocked. Scram. Ren Xiaoping billowed his sleeve. The young Gu immortal's vision changed. He was inside a cave instantly. A jade cannot become refined without polishing. Grandson, I cannot let you mess around anymore. Otherwise, even with my protection, there are many people in Eastern Sea who would not give me face. As for this Chuing, I will deal with him one day. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaoping's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. Since I am trying to befriend Miao Mingshan, I might as well offend Ren Xiaoping. Speaking of which, this hidden room oyster is quite useful. It is easy to use for transport. As long as the current isn't too strong, I can rest inside and regain my strength. Fang Yuan sat inside the hidden room oyster as it flowed along with the currents. Just like this, he got closer to his destination. But in the turbulent flow sea area, distance did not relate to time from destination. After taking the hidden room oyster, Fang Yuan's luck started to fall. He encountered several bad currents and went in bad directions. He had to make many detours. After a long trip, a day later, he finally reached the central area of the turbulent flow sea area. The currents here were massive. Fang Yuan entered them like an ant jumping into a river. Ordinary currents would change directions or locations once in a while, but the central area of the turbulent flow sea area was too big. Because of its size, it was hard to shift. Even though it changed at every moment, the extent was small, it was actually quite stable, and in these currents, there were many bubbles. There were big and small bubbles, from the size of a human head to a mountain. These bubbles were formed during the huge battle. It was unknown which great expert's immortal killer move did in the bubbles. There were carcasses and inheritances. Most bubbles contained sea water and small-sized islands. Found it. It's this. Fang Yuan looked for his target. He approached it with difficulty before entering it. The bubble's surface was torn open, but it soon was restored. Only some water went in. It was not a problem. Fang Yuan's vision changed. There was a green sea with a calm surface. The sky was pure white. Like an egg in colored, it was simply another world. At the center of the sea, there was an island. There was wild grass on the island. And in the grass, there were many tall stone pillars. Some people said that the worlds inside the bubbles were actually portions of the turbulent flow sea area originally. But after the battle, space was torn into pieces. Some also said that these were the fragment worlds of the great expert's immortal aperture. Because of a unique immortal killer move, these bubbles were formed. Fang Yuan did not care about the reason why there were bubbles that he came to the stone pillar and took out Flying Sword Immortal Goo, seemingly having sensed the information path insignia on Flying Sword. Immortal Goo, these stone pillars started to shine in red light. Soon after, they started to move slowly. When they slowed down, space of around a vat size opened as a skeleton fell out. Fang Yuan carefully inspected it. This skeleton was full of bone path down marks. It was a quasi-rank 8 immortal material. The skeleton's right hand was holding a dark green lump. Fang Yuan took out this dark green lump. After inspecting it, he burst it and several sleeping goo worms were revealed. 2 immortal goo and 5 mortal goo. Unfortunately, most of them were dead. Only a corpse was left. When the wind blew, they turned to ash. Countless years had passed. The goo worm preservation method was not very good. It was no wonder that time prevailed. Eventually, only one rank 6 immortal goo was left. Fang Yuan quickly saved it, as it barely hung on to life. What goo worm is this? Fang Yuan was perplexed. He did not recognize it. Looking at the skeleton, there was nothing left. This is that so-called information path inheritance. Fang Yuan sighed that an ordinary goo immortal would be joyous. But Fang Yuan, who had just obtained He Fan's true inheritance, felt quite unsatisfied. Inspecting the corpse, Fang Yuan discovered that in the skull of this skeleton, there were many thoughts sealed. The thoughts were fragmented, but Fang Yuan was a wisdom path grandmaster. He could barely excavate some details from them. The name of the goo immortal who left behind this inheritance could not be found. Fang Yuan only knew that he had barely survived that intense battle with his last breath. He managed to enter this bubble and set up his inheritance to it was indeed an information path inheritance, but most of the information was lost. But Fang Yuan was not leaving empty-handed. He knew the name of the immortal goo he saved, Perceivable Tao. Perceivable Tao Immortal Goo was an information path investigative immortal goo. It had a very niche effect. It could help the goo immortal see clearly what types of Tao marks the target had, and their quantity, as well as for the origin of this skeleton. It was not the inheritance's creator, but an enemy killed by the information path Gu Immortal. In the thoughts. The information path Gu Immortal who left this inheritance said that this skeleton could be used as immortal material directly. Because the enemy's Dao marks were all left inside this skeleton. This made Fang Yuan feel some surprise, because after a Gu Immortal dies, their Dao marks usually go back to the immortal aperture. Unless it was an immortal zombie, without a normal immortal aperture, their Dao marks would remain in the body. This information path Gu Immortal has amazing methods. He could gather all of the Gu Immortal's Dao marks into their skeleton and preserve them. Unfortunately, the inheritance's information is too lacking, and it cannot be restored. Fang Yuan felt it was a great pity. He was hoping that this information path inheritance could allow him to obtain a method to break his alliance agreements. Unfortunately, most things in the world do not proceed as one hopes. What he obtained was only perceivable Dao Immortal Gu. Keeping the immortal Gu in his immortal aperture, Fang Yuan prepared to leave. "Murderer, where are you going?" At this moment, a blood-red figure charged into this huge bubble. His bloodshot eyes were staring at Fang Yuan fiercely. Chapter 1157, Exterminate. The other party had arrived imposingly, staring at Fang Yuan fixedly. He had injuries on his body. His hair was messy, and he looked to be in a sorry state. One thought flashed in Fang Yuan's mind. Ding Qi. Some days ago, Immortal Hua Dai had told Fang Yuan about the blood path, demonic path immortal, Ding Qi, who had come to the turbulent Flow Sea area. His brother, Ding Yan, was the blood path, demonic immortal that had died at Lu Qingyu's hands. Now, Fang Yuan saw this person. He naturally had a guess towards his identity. Next, another group of Gu immortals appeared as they charged into the bubble. The two at the front were familiar to Fang Yuan. One was Tang Song. The other was Zhou Li. Tang Song shouted, "Ding Qi, where are you trying to go?" "In exactly 1 year. It will be the anniversary of your death. It is a pity, your brother is dead. Nobody is going to send you offerings. Ha!" Ding Qi seemingly did not hear anything. He stared at Fang Yuan, gritting his teeth. "It's you. You just obtained the information path inheritance. My brother found that clue after so much trouble, but it is with you. You are also his murderer." "What?" The Gu immortals pursuing him heard this and turned to stare at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan smiled. "Interesting. How did you know I took the inheritance?" Ding Qi smiled coldly. "Because I have blood trace immortal Gu." Saying this, he used his immortal Gu. Soon, blood-colored shadows appeared in the island. The shadows formed a series of movements. It was Fang Yuan who had entered the bubble and took away the information path inheritance. Zhou Li and Tang Song screamed angrily. "He stole the inheritance. Who are you? Hand over the inheritance." Fang Yuan's smile bloomed. He ignored the immortals. He only looked at Ding Qi with curiosity. "Blood trace immortal Gu. This is the first time I have heard of this. This is a blood path immortal Gu that I created together with my brother. Other than this, we also created the immortal Gu blood oath." Mentioning his brother, Ding Qi was extremely angry and upset. Zhou Li, Tang Song, and the other immortals were furious too. As it turned out, Lu Qinyu gathered a bunch of people to come to the turbulent Flow Sea area. It caused Ding Qi to appear. Information got out. Zhou Li and Tang Song also gathered a group of Gu immortals to come here. Initially, they were suspicious that Lu Qinyu had gotten the information path inheritance clue. They had spent so much effort in getting here, but the immortals met Ding Qi. Ding Qi had already gotten here long ago, using blood trace immortal Gu to make some arrangements. Both sides fought, but Ding Qi was alone. Even though he was a blood path demonic immortal, he could not rival so many enemies. He had to escape while fighting, during which Fang Yuan came in and obtained the inheritance. Ding Qi felt something and rushed over without caring about anything else, meeting Fang Yuan. "This is blood trace immortal Gu? Very interesting indeed." Fang Yuan looked at Ding Qi with a look of appreciation, sighing. Geniuses are indeed everywhere. They have their own unique talents. Speaking of blood path, the most famous person was Blood Sea Ancestor. He was a great demon with 7 Blood Sea true inheritances. Everyone knew about them. He had left a deep mark in history, but at present, if blood path experts were listed down, Ding Qi and Ding Yan would definitely have reputable rankings. These brothers had deeply researched. They created Blood Oath and Blood Trace, these two blood path immortal goo. Most importantly, they actually managed to refine them. In terms of blood path, they were truly talented. It was rare. What are you sighing about? Hand over the inheritance. That's right. The inheritance is mine. You are an outsider. You actually snatched it from us. Zhou Li and Tang Song screamed. They had worked so hard and put in so much effort. In the end, an outsider whose name was not even known had taken their rightful gains. Zhou Li and Tang Song had already regarded this inheritance as their own. Fang Yuan was naturally taking away their food. How could they stand it? Zhou Li and Tang Song gave up on their original target, Ding Qi. They turned towards Fang Yuan. But Ding Qi was even quicker. He directly attacked Fang Yuan. Murderer, hand over your life. Fang Yuan smiled lightly. You want my life, but I'm not going to play with you. The inheritance is mine already anyway. Saying so, he charged out of the bubble, going into the currents. Chase. We will catch him, dead or alive. Zhou Li and Tang Song shouted angrily. They refused to give up, especially Fang Yuan's final words. It truly sent their anger over the edge that a group of goo immortals were chasing in the chaotic currents. In this special environment, goo immortals could only move along with the currents. During the process, countless attacks aimed at Fang Yuan were unleashed. Fang Yuan used his immortal goo to defend as he accelerated. Sword escape immortal goo was not to be underestimated. Soon, a group of goo immortals fell behind. They were too far apart. This person's movement is so familiar. Zhou Li was perplexed. Tang Song's eyes opened wide. He wanted to get back his inheritance. He did not think in that aspect at all. Between the two sides, there was also the blood path demonic immortal Ding Qi. His eyes were blood red. He was filled with killing intent. Die? My brother died, and you took advantage of it. It was such a regretful death. Death, you deserve death. I will tear you into pieces. Intense rage burned through his rationality. He was in a frenzied state. Fang Yuan suddenly turned, dodging a huge waves of attacks. The pursuers were stifled. Fang Yuan's movements were too slippery. Even if some killer moves could chase after the enemy, he destroyed them personally. The goo immortals chased him for so long, but there was no result. They even wasted a lot of immortal essence. Here was not like other places. The environment was quite unique. A bubble appeared before them. Fang Yuan. Thoughts shifted, directly entering it. He went in. Quick, encircle it. Something is wrong. Why did he enter a bubble instead of escaping? The immortals surrounded this bubble, but they did not enter. They were filled with suspicion that a blood-red figure shot into the bubble like an arrow. It was the blood path demonic immortal Ding Qi. He was more resolute than these goo immortals. The immortals stayed outside the bubble, but they saw no disturbance. They started to get restless. They could not stand it anymore. Tang Song went in first, followed by Zhou Li and the rest. All of the goo immortals went into the bubble. Strange. Where is this? A city. The goo immortals who came in found that they had appeared amidst some houses for some reason. These houses were designed meticulously, but they had broken walls, as if an earthquake had occurred here. Furthermore, this place was full of cobwebs and dust. It looked like a city that had been abandoned for many years. Strange. There are lots of pans and bowls here. It seems like many people had lived here before. On such a large scale, they cannot be goo immortals. But mortals actually lived here. Even before the turbulent flow sea area formed, I have never heard of many mortals living here. The goo immortals gathered as they discussed. Also, where is that goo immortal who ran away? Ding Qi is missing too. No, Ding Qi is there, facing Lord Tang Song. The goo immortal who took the inheritance is really missing. He seems to be hiding inside here. Find him and force him to hand over the inheritance. The immortals were about to get to work when they suddenly heard Fang Yuan's voice from the sky. It was loud and grand. You are all here. Good. Everyone, enjoy this. It is your final moment before death. As he said this, the immortals felt the sky turning dark. They raised their heads, and at the next moment, the immortals showed extremely shocked expressions, only to see that a huge hand, enormously big, covering the entire sky, pressed down slowly. The aura was too imposing. It was like the sky was collapsing. Everyone felt a strong feeling of weakness and helplessness. Impossible. This is an illusion. If he has such strength, how could he be running away from us? Zhou Li shouted. The immortals jolted, their morale rose. They felt that Zhou Li was right. All of the immortals attacked. Boom! With a loud sound, the giant hand pressed down. Countless houses collapsed. Several Gu immortals died at once, turning into meat paste. How can this be? Zhou Li climbed up from the pit with much difficulty. He opened his eyes and looked around in disbelief. The entire city was gone. It was a pathetic sight full of ruins. The Gu immortals who survived stood up in the rubble. They were all shocked and fearful that in a contest of strength. They had so many Gu immortals, but they actually lost. Shadow Sect's trap is truly useful. Hee. Fang Yuan thought as he activated Strength Path Giant Hand again. Thus, in the immortal's eyes, the sky turned dark again. The giant hand crashed down slowly while covering the entire sky. It's coming. It's coming again. Hold on. We have to endure it. At the moment of life and death, forget about the rest. Take out your trump cards and survive this trial. The immortals shouted. They were fearful and uneasy. Their attitude was clearly different from before. Boom! The giant hand caused the entire ground to lower by several meters. This time, only 3 people stood up. Zhou Li, Tang Song, and the blood path demonic immortal Ding Qi. Giant hand was used for the 3rd time. The 3 immortals had a look of despair. I will not let you have an easy time even if I die. Ding Qi self-detonated. Zhou Li and Tang Song resisted, but to no avail. Eventually, they died at Fang Yuan's hands. Secluded domain of heaven and earth. City well. It truly lives up to its reputation. Fang Yuan praised as he sighed. Right now, there was a well in front of him. The well was squarish on the outside, but it was circular on the surface inside. Fang Yuan stood on the edge of the well. He looked down, seeing a miniature town at the bottom of the well. Right now, it had been completely decimated from his 3 uses of giant hand. There were some bloody patches in the rubble. It was the meat paste of Gu immortals who were killed. City well first appeared in The Legends of Rinzhu, or more accurately, The Legends of Rinzhu, Chapter 4, Section 23 clearly described it. Chapter 1158, City well. Legend has it, Rinzhu's 4th child, Boundless Forest Samsara, fell from the tree. She did not follow after Rinzhu. Instead, she was trapped inside ordinary abyss. One day, when she was sleeping, she met a mini-man. The mini-man was crying. Boundless Forest Samsara asked him why. The mini-man spoke while crying. I am the tallest in my tribe, and I was brave, arrogant, and proud because of this. Today, I intended to climb a mountain, but to think that this mountain was really a person. There are actually such giant people like you in the world. This is the first time I've seen someone like you. So I burst into tears. Since then, Boundless Forest Samsara and the Mini-Man became good friends. They were inseparable. Mini-Man, oh Mini-Man, where is your father? Do you not have siblings? Why have I never seen your family? One day, Boundless Forest Samsara asked the Mini-Man. The Mini-Man directed Boundless Forest Samsara to a well, saying, Look at this well, my former home is inside. Boundless Forest Samsara sprawled in front of the well, extending her head to look inside. Next, she shouted, Ah, there are so many mini-men. She saw that there were countless mini-men inside the well. They were living together. They built many houses. They lived among each other. There were markets, flowers. It was a harmonious scene. They were very happy. The mini-men in the well also shouted, Why did the sky become so dark? It's nighttime already. There was thunder but no rain. I don't see lightning either. The mini-men were in panic. They discussed as the entire city went into commotion. Your family is here? Why did you go outside the well? You don't want to live with them. Boundless Forest Samsara asked. The mini-man shook his head. They were the ones who exiled me. They think I am a monster. Oh, why is that? Boundless Forest Samsara was curious. The mini-man answered with sadness. I told them that the world we were living in was just a well. The outside world is very big. But they did not believe me. They told me to stop spouting nonsense. I also told them that the mountain at the fringe of our city is a very small mound. But they refused to believe me. They think that it is the tallest mountain in the world. They told me to stop spreading lies. Which mountain is it? Boundless Forest Samsara asked. That's minuscule mountain. The mini-man pointed. Boundless Forest Samsara started to giggle. You call that a mountain? It can fit in my palm. Suddenly, Boundless Forest Samsara clapped. Then let me tell them the truth. The mini-man shook his head. It is useless. Boundless Forest Samsara did not believe him. She faced the well as she shouted. The mini-men inside started to panic even more. They felt that today was too strange. Not only did the sky turn dark, there was thunder rumbling, and it was getting louder and more frequent. Heaven is raging. I want to repent. I want to confess. No, it is a monster. A monster ate heaven. It is burping now. Save me. This world is getting destroyed. Some mini-men knelt on the ground and begged. Some had despair on their faces, while others were running around crazily. Boundless Forest Samsara's breathing became a tornado inside the well. Boundless Forest Samsara's saliva became a huge rainstorm when it went into the well. Boundless Forest Samsara's words were like rumbling thunder in the mini-men's ears. Their eardrums almost burst from it. Boundless Forest Samsara eventually gave up. She sprawled outside the well. Exhausted, she said weakly, "Why are these mini-men so stupid? Can't they be like you, to get out of the well and see the world?" The mini-man shook his head as he sighed. They think that they are big enough. They think the sky is round. They think the mountain is only that tall. They think life is just like this. Then why did you climb out? Boundless Forest Samsara opened her eyes wide as she asked with curiosity. The mini-man smiled bitterly. Because I realized how small and insignificant I was, therefore, I got out to see how big the world is. Fang Yuan walked in a circle around Citywell. His eyes were flickering brightly. This was the third secluded domain of heaven and earth he had encountered. The first two were Danghun Mountain and Luopa Valley. In order to harm Fang Yuan, Ingwu Xie had set up a trap. It was by using Citywell. But Fang Yuan took him by surprise. He obtained precious information from Lu Qingyu, and in turn, made use of Citywell to kill a bunch of Eastern Sigu immortals instead, like what was recorded in The Legends of Renzu. Boundless Forest Samsara's breathing became a tornado, and her saliva became rain. Fang Yuan was outside the well. When he used his immortal killer move, the power was amplified by tens or hundreds of times when it entered the well, but Fang Yuan had to pay a price. His immortal essence expenditure was also tens or hundreds of times as high. Even though Fang Yuan only used 3 giant hands, the expenditure was around the same as 100 uses of it. If an uninformed person entered the bottom of Citywell, they would be trapped. But once they realize their situation and know this is Citywell, they would be able to escape. Like what The Legends of Renzu said, once the mini-man realized his own insignificance and wanted to see the world outside, he managed to climb out of Citywell. One could say, leaving Citywell was both difficult and easy. Precisely so, Ingwu Xie did not use Citywell to target Fang Yuan to a great extent. Firstly, he could not control his strength. What if he killed Fang Yuan? How could he find the immortal material to refine sovereign immortal fetus goo again? Secondly, Fang Yuan might immediately recognize the truth and escape with the upper extreme heavenly eagle. By then, Ingwu Xie would not stand a chance. The bigger reason was the second one, because he was uncertain. Ingwu Xie made this Citywell a trap to stall Fang Yuan, instead of using it to kill him. Fang Yuan wanted to take this Citywell for himself, because this secluded domain of heaven and earth would be a huge help to him when he develops his immortal aperture. Pulling mountain immortal goo, Fang Yuan began to try, but Citywell only shook slightly. Pulling mountain could pull out mountains, but Citywell was not a mountain. Although it was on the ground and needed earth chi, strength path giant hand, Fang Yuan tried to dig out Citywell. However, once the giant hand got close to Citywell, it rapidly shrank, like a burst bubble. In a few breaths' time, it was completely depleted. It seems that even though Shadow Sect has control of this secluded domain of heaven and earth, they cannot relocate it. Fang Yuan tried a few more times without success. His best attempt was the first time. The result was evident. He used pulling mountain immortal goo and managed to make Citywell shake slightly. In this case, pulling mountain immortal goo is actually effective, but just pulling mountain alone is not enough. I need to think of an immortal killer move that can relocate this Citywell. Realizing this, Fang Yuan could only give up for now that he entered the well. When he got to the bottom, his body became very small, looting the battlefield. Only Zhou Li and Tang Song had complete corpses. Fang Yuan put them into the sovereign immortal aperture. As for the other Gu immortals, they were all meat paste. The blood path demonic immortal Ding Qi had self-detonated, but his blood path immortal aperture was left behind. Other than him, the other Gu immortals also left behind their immortal apertures. Soon, the world inside the well started to stir. Heaven and earth Qi burst out as blessed lands formed one by one. Fang Yuan spent a lot of time entering these blessed lands and exploring them. Forget about immortal Gu, but there were quite a number of resources that were normally owned by Eastern Sea cultivators. These Gu immortals were not as poor as Lu Qingyu. Most of their assets were still around, except the blood path demonic immortal Ding Qi. Even all of the resources inside his immortal aperture were destroyed. Even so, Fang Yuan was a blood path grandmaster. He had enough attainment level to annex Ding Qi's blessed land and expand the sovereign immortal aperture. Inside these blessed lands, some had land spirits, some did not. In the blessed lands without land spirits, Fang Yuan took away all of their resources. Those with land spirits were more troublesome. They needed to acknowledge him as their master. Otherwise, Fang Yuan could not take away all of the resources inside. Of course, it was not impossible to just plunder it, but that was a short-term benefit disregarding the long-term gains. Fang Yuan thought about it. He did not use brute force. After spending some time in the well, he left and started to modify this bubble. The bubble had a sea and an island. City Well was in the middle of the island. Because of Ying Wuxie's arrangement, outsiders would directly end up at the bottom of the well when they went in. But Fang Yuan had Lu Qingyu's information. He did not fall for it. Instead, he used this trap to kill all the pursuers. He got rid of a lot of trouble. If Ying Wuxie knew that his arrangements not only failed to give Fang Yuan problems, they even provided huge help to him. Would he spit out blood from anger? Fang Yuan preserved some of Ying Wuxie's arrangements. At the same time, he added in some of his own methods to conceal the bubble even more. Next, he left the bubble and directed the bubble to a new location. Not long ago, Ying Wuxie did the same thing. This bubble with City Well was not originally here. Ying Wuxie wanted to harm Fang Yuan. He spent a lot of time and effort to move this bubble here. Inside the current, Fang Yuan could not control where he went. He was washed away by it. Thankfully, he had the hidden room oyster. He could rest inside. Fang Yuan moved back and forth dozens of times before moving this bubble into another current. He spent more than 10 times the amount of immortal essence and time as Ying Wuxie. After completing this, Fang Yuan took a detour and went to Ying Wuxie's former camp. There, it was another island in a bubble. Fang Yuan entered deep underground, but Regret Pool was already taken apart by Ying Wuxie. Even the surrounding Gu formations were gone. The tributary of the River of Time that Shadow Sect had kept here was also missing. This was the special characteristic of the turbulent flow sea area. Every current was constantly changing and moving. But with this, it is enough to befriend Miao Ming Shun. Fang Yuan used his information path Mortal Gu, sending it through Treasure Yellow Heaven. Chapter 1159, Development of the Sovereign Immortal Aperture. Several days later, Fang Yuan waited for Immortal Hua Dai to arrive. There is a trace of the River of Time indeed. It is very recent. Immortal Hua Dai inspected and felt overjoyed. With this clue, she could definitely locate the tributary of the River of Time. Chuing, we have truly troubled you. To think that you really found this tributary of the River of Time. We searched for decades without finding any useful clues. Immortal Hua Dai was very excited. She could finally give Miao Ming Shun good news. Go ahead and track it. I do not need any compensation. I might need Lord Miao Ming Shun's help in the future. I will take my leave. Fang Yuan was understanding and kind. Immortal Hua Dai had a good impression of him. Before leaving, she advised again. Be careful. Blood Path demonic immortal Ding Qi has appeared, engaging in battle with Zhou Li and Tang Song. If you meet them, you should avoid them. There is no need to get involved in this. Fairy, I will remember your words. Thank you. Fang Yuan showed a moved expression. Immortal Hua Dai had no idea. It was this person who had killed Ding Qi, Zhou Li, Tang Song, and everyone else. But the turbulent flow sea area was very complex. It was normal that they all went missing. Nobody felt anything strange. There were often Gu immortals who went missing for months or years before appearing suddenly again. Half a month later, Fang Yuan returned to Langya blessed land that I end this journey to Eastern Sea. Even though his goal was not achieved, he had great gains that I end the Cloud City's secret room. Fang Yuan quietly sat as his divine sense activated, inspecting his entire sovereign immortal aperture. The sovereign immortal aperture had changed greatly. In the past, it was barren and empty. But now, it had a lot of resources. At a glance, it was no longer so empty and boring. Actually, all of these resources that Fang Yuan gathered could not fit inside ordinary blessed lands. But the sovereign immortal aperture was simply too huge. After placing these resources, there was still a lot of space left in many northern plains. Half the area was covered in snow and frost. The other half had green grass. On this grassland, Fang Yuan placed a few desolate beasts, like the giant horned sheep and shark fin wolf that he had since long ago in many western desert. There were already 11 eerie fire dragon python dens. Because of his aperture's rate of time being at 60 times, along with Dongfang tribe's superb method of rearing, the eerie fire dragon pythons were reproducing at a rapid rate in many Eastern Sea. Fang Yuan had created several artificial lakes, putting dragonfish groups, air bubble fish groups, literature carp groups, and others. Now, with more of the common resources obtained from killing the Eastern Sea Gu immortals, he had great gains. Even though they were not particularly precious, the quantity was high. He could develop using this foundation in mini central continent. There was a huge area of mirror willows. It had formed a giant forest spanning 100 li, speaking of which, Fang Yuan had originally planted mirror willows inside Hu immortal blessed land. After relocating them, these mirror willows were moved into mini central continent. And because of the sovereign immortal aperture's time flow, although Fang Yuan had never put effort in them, with just their own growth rate, the forest reached this scale. Other than mirror willows, mini central continent also had a huge underground bloodgy forest. Its scale was only smaller than the mirror willows. Mini central continent was too huge. Mirror willows and the bloodgy forest had no competitors. They could grow freely. The most flourishing region was mini southern border, which was overflowing with life. The resources obtained from Heifan Grotto Heaven were mostly relocated here. However, mini southern border was not filled up. Large numbers of musical trees and tea streams were seen. There were also the Chi Deathbird groups bringing immense vitality to mini southern border. More than 10 mountains had appeared in mini southern border already. The tallest mountain was Five Light Mountain. It was bright and grand, followed by Immortal Succession Mountain. It had many stone pavilions on it. The scenery was good. Mini southern border's most important resource was the regretful spider group. It had already grown in scale multiple times already. Above the 5 regions were the 9 heavens in mini orange heaven. There were profound lights. They were emitting from the flowing light fruits. This was the result of Fang Yuan's previous effort in farming them in mini yellow heaven. There was a gold fragment river. It was not big, but better than nothing in mini azure heaven. There was azure fog. It was the pill azure incense that Fang Yuan bought. There was also the storage pool of the heavenly crystals. It was temporarily placed here without any in mini blue heaven. Large clouds were floating with star fragment grass and arrow bamboo forests on them, producing star path mortal goo for Fang Yuan. There was also a young, ancient, desolate beast falling star hound. It was saved by Fang Yuan and was playing around in mini blue heaven in mini purple heaven. The heavenly crystal eagle nest was eaten by the upper extreme heavenly eagle. Only an upper extreme heavenly eagle egg was left. There were also some heavenly crystal fragments. These were all exchanged from Langya land spirit in mini black heaven. There was a walking meat tree in mini white heaven. There were 3 remnant heavenly dogs and a group of eagle hounds, as well as some multicolored overlord flowers. The light was making the environment quite conducive already. Earlier, because Fang Yuan killed some light path Gu immortals, the light path Dao marks in the immortal aperture had increased. Unfortunately, I did not bring back City Well into the sovereign immortal aperture. Fang Yuan was still thinking about City Well, inside the turbulent flow sea area. Even though City Well was damaged greatly, Fang Yuan could use landscape as before to restore it. The destroyed buildings could not be repaired, But minuscule mountain could definitely be reformed. It turned out that this legendary mountain had been destroyed during the Battle of Etion Mountain when Fairy Lishan died. However, Fang Yuan thought of a way to restore it. According to the Legends of Rinzhu, minuscule mountain was a part of City Well. If I had City Well, I could raise large numbers of variant human groups inside the well. It is a pity. There were 3 stages in managing an immortal aperture. The initial stage was when the Gu immortal grows enough resources to fulfill the needs of their immortal Gu's food. The middle stage would be to develop more resources in addition to the immortal Gu's food, to help the Gu immortal in cultivation while also selling them for immortal essence stones. The upper stage would be raising variant humans inside the immortal aperture, or even humans. This had huge significance to the Gu immortal and has many benefits as well. For example, earlier, Fang Yuan bought hairy man slaves in Hu immortal blessed land to refine Gu for himself. This saved him a lot of time and effort. Among the other variant humans, mini-men could grow flowers and grass. Rockmen could develop underground space. Snowmen could produce ice tiers and survive in the icy plains. Purebred humans had the greatest intelligence. They could reproduce rapidly and create things with their wisdom. Large numbers of Gu recipes and killer moves could be created without the Gu immortal making deductions themselves. If one developed well, the immortal aperture might even have Gu immortals or human Gu immortals. They would be extremely loyal because they grew up in there. This would be a great help for the immortal aperture's owner. Currently, Fang Yuan's sovereign immortal aperture was at the initial stage because he had gained a few more immortal Gu and had not fulfilled their feeding needs. Attitude Gu, Wisdom Sword Immortal Gu, and the other rank 8 Immortal Gu were hard to feed. Fang Yuan could only devise a plan. He had solved a portion of them, but these problems were not resolved yet. However, in terms of the middle stage, he had incredible achievements, because he had obtained countless resources from Star Form Blessed Land, Dongfang Tribe, and Hei Fan Grotto Heaven. Most normal resources, like Star Path Mortal Gu, Regretful Spiders, Musical Trees and others, they were all sold outside and provided profits. Not to mention Danghun Mountain. Guts Gu has always been Fang Yuan's greatest source of profit. It earned him revenue daily. Horses need extra grass to grow healthy. Humans need windfalls to get rich. What made Fang Yuan's sovereign immortal aperture so wealthy were the countless windfalls that he had obtained, and these resources were Fang Yuan's great assurance in cultivating. Without these resources, no matter how high Fang Yuan's battle strength was, he would not feel assured. Currently, Fang Yuan could not raise variant humans in large numbers. Of course, he could do the same thing as in Hu Immortal Blessed Land, buying large numbers of variant humans to work inside the immortal aperture for him. But that was not the proper way. The true way was to allow these variant humans to grow and reproduce naturally. They would be real members of the immortal aperture, living inside peacefully. Only like this, they could grow healthily and produce great profits in the future. But if he bought variant human slaves and made them work, Fang Yuan would only incur losses. He had already learned this lesson in Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Fang Yuan's stone nests had hairy man slaves dying from Gu refinement almost every day. The hairy man slaves had no time to reproduce or rest. Their numbers dwindled. Fang Yuan could only make a loss as he continued to buy slaves to replenish them. However, if he had City Well, it would be different. City Well was a special environment isolated from the outside world. It was very suited for raising humans or variant humans. The reproduction and deaths of variant humans inside City Well would also have an effect of nourishing and elevating City Well itself. Forget about this mystical property for now. All in all, with City Well, Fang Yuan could instantly start his upper stage developments while still in the initial stage. He would obtain great gains. This would undoubtedly allow his cultivation journey to be smoother, and his cultivation level would grow many times faster. Fang Yuan ended his inspection of the sovereign immortal aperture. There were areas where he was pleased, and areas where he was not satisfied. What made Fang Yuan satisfied was the sovereign immortal aperture's Dao marks had grown favorably. For example, Earth Path Dao marks. Even though they were still lacking, they had improved greatly compared to earlier. He was not satisfied with the fact that other than mini southern border, the rest of the regions were still quite empty and had little resources. The sovereign immortal aperture was just too big. Having huge space was a good problem. The current situation would cause conflict between his resources in the future. For example, the mirror willows, they were growing rapidly in many central continent. If another type of plant also grew quickly, and the two types met, an intense conflict would occur. Conflict between plants was quite mild. But what about beast groups? If two fierce beast groups met, wouldn't they fight to the death? If the blessed land was small, the Gu immortal could adjust it quickly. But Fang Yuan's blessed land was too big. By the time he noticed their conflict, his losses would be severe. To prevent this situation, Fang Yuan could only start planning early with great foresight. The sovereign immortal aperture was not easy to manage. Fang Yuan not only had to consider his current gains, he also had to think about the future. Chapter 1160. Qi luck sensation is ineffective. In conclusion, Fang Yuan's sovereign immortal aperture had already grown much, but it still needed a lot of development work. The sovereign immortal aperture had too much potential. It had 5 regions and 9 heavens. Even mini southern border, which had taken in all of Fan Grotto Heaven's resources, could not be filled up. Nobody would believe this story, and every layer of the 9 heavens had the size of all 5 regions combined. Fang Yuan had already noticed that the development of the sovereign immortal aperture would be a vast and unparalleled project. Up until now, out of 100%, his current developments could barely be considered to make up 2% completion. Were it not for me being the person involved and witnessing this myself, how could I possibly believe that such an immortal aperture exists in this world? Spectral Soul, Demon Venerable, Shadow Sect, and Zombie Alliance planned for 100,000 years to obtain this. I took this from them. This conflict is truly irreconcilable. Sigh, it is a pity. Even though in this trip, I managed to deal a blow to Ying Wu Xie's group, it could not truly shake their foundation. Fang Yuan sighed when he thought of this. In the dark secret room, he sat quietly. His hair hung down to his waist. His skin was pure like jade. His eyes were unfathomably dark like an abyss, as cold light flashed in them occasionally. After adjusting his breathing, Fang Yuan mobilized his immortal essence, using an immortal killer move. Qi luck sensation. At once, a feeling spread out from Fang Yuan's body. If he had luck inspection immortal Gu, Fang Yuan would be able to see his huge luck shaking. Above his head, Fang Yuan started to feel vague spots of sensation appearing one by one. Western desert. The sun was blazing hot, causing steam to rise up from the sandy ground. A pursuit of life and death was engaging here. Rascal, you actually dare to snatch the goo worm that us bandits want. Don't let me catch you. I will tear you to pieces and use your skin as a lantern cover. Surrender, obediently hand over polished gold goo, and you might have a chance to live. A large group of goo masters with an imposing aura were chasing Han Li, who was running in front of them. Han Li had extremely great luck. When he was alone, his luck could be low at times, but after it was connected, it had been very stable. He cultivated for a period of time. He had rank 3 cultivation level now. Elder level. In the Gu Master world, he could already hold his own. He was neither a beginner rank 1 nor a cannon fodder rank 2. Rank 3 cultivation level was elite in the Gu Master world. However, in his current situation, 3 of the pursuers had rank 3 cultivation level. The rest were rank 2 and 1. Han Li could only run. His primeval essence fell rapidly. His injuries were becoming a burden. Blood was oozing out. With every breath he took, Han Li endured pain that felt like a fire was burning his chest. But such pain could not make him let go. Right now, he was holding onto that polished gold goo. My aptitude is not high enough. Even though I have fortuitous encounters, in the long term, they are unreliable. This polished gold goo can increase my aptitude. It can grant me a brighter future. I need to push on. Only by betting my life on it can I have a chance to get stronger in the future. Han Li breathed roughly. He was extremely tired, but his legs moved like the wind. His running speed did not slow down at all. His eyes were burning with fire. Southern border. Water flowed down the lush green mountain. Fan shouted loudly, as his body suddenly grew to twice of his original size. He was tall and extraordinary. Multicolored lights were shining out of his muscles and pores. His eyes were radiating with bright light. He was truly grand and elegant. Under the shocked gaze of his opponent, he punched with both fists like an unstoppable warrior. His aura was incredibly powerful. Rumble. Yi Fan took huge steps forward. Everywhere he went, light shone as rocks shattered and streams dried. His enemies were forced back by him without any chance of retaliating. Cough, cough. Shang Clan's Yi Fan, you live up to your reputation. This time, we, the 18 Sons of Wine Village, admit defeat. The leader of the enemies spat out blood. Even though he wanted to get up, he could not. The other 17 Gu Masters were also lying on the ground. Some had fainted while others were grunting. Even though they could not fight anymore, they stared at Yi Fan with intense hatred while Yi Fan slowly adjusted his stance. He let out a breath. His huge body shrunk back to its original size. He looked at his opponents on the ground, saying calmly, "According to the rules, you 18 Sons of Wine Village are not to take a step onto this mountain again. This is now Shang Clan's territory." Humph. Don't worry, we might be lone cultivators, but we lost this contest fair and square. We will keep our word. The leader replied firmly. Yi Fan nodded. He rubbed his hands together as jade green light shone on the 18 Sons of Wine Village. They first shook in anxiety, but soon, they found that their injuries were rapidly recovering. Soon, the 18 Sons of Wine Village stood up. They were able to move again. The 18 Sons of Wine Village looked at Yi Fan with more relaxed expressions now. Ever since Yi Fan accepted Gu Immortal Shang Qing's Gu Master inheritance, his cultivation level might not have risen much, but his overall strength had grown drastically. He had methods in all aspects, and did not have a visible flaw. When Shang Xinci first became clan leader, Shang Clan's mortal sector had lots of internal and external problems. It was Yi Fan who stood up and helped Shang Xinci resolve her problems. Right now, Yi Fan chased away the 18 Sons of Wine Village. He helped Shang Clan open up a new trade route and eased her political pressure. The leader sighed, cupping his fists. "Yi Fan, you are very strong, but you let us off in the end. We brothers will accept this favor. As long as you are in Shang Clan, we will not target it. However, if you want to open up the trade route, we are only the third hurdle. You have 2 more obstacles ahead." "I understand. Any Gu Master in these 2 rounds would be stronger than all of you combined." Yi Fan nodded expressionlessly. He had a lot of information. Shang Clan was a huge force. Shang Xinci would not restrict Yi Fan in this aspect. But the leader's following words made Yi Fan's expression change. Yi Fan, be careful. These 2 obstacles have changed. Not long ago, White Demon appeared and defeated those lone cultivators. Right now, she has already gathered all the Gu Masters in these 2 rounds, becoming the mastermind. If you arrived a day later, we would have surrendered to White Demon as well. White Demon? You mean the black and white demons? Yi Fan's eyes shined brightly. The leader of the 18 Sons of Wine Village nodded. If it were not a famous demonic cultivator like White Demon, why would those lone cultivators submit? She has unfathomable strength. I would advise you to consider it thoroughly. Shang Xinci's image appeared in Yi Fan's mind, before He too appeared in his mind. No. His body shook with determination. He spoke plainly, with an indisputable tone. I will go. Central Continent, I in a nameless cave. Don't come here, don't come here. Hong Yi's clothes were torn. His muscular chest was exposed. The morbidly obese female Gu Master chuckled as she approached him. Little sweetheart, can you escape? You have ended up in my hands. Accept your fate. Just submit to me, ha ha ha. Whoosh, with a soft sound, Hong Yi's clothes were all stripped away. The female Gu Master jumped, about to press on him. No. Hong Yi screamed in fear. At the moment of crisis, he unleashed 200% of his potential. He broke the seal on his body and pushed the female Gu Master away. Impossible. How could you break the seal I created? The female Gu Master was startled and angered. That is because I am here. A mini-man Gu Master appeared on Hong Yi's shoulder. You finally came. Hong Yi was about to cry. We got the thing, let's go. The mini-man whispered. The female Gu Master's expression changed. She sensed something amiss. The muscles on her fat face distorted. So that's it. You 2 came here to steal my ecstasy water. Hong Yi Fan, Han Li. Even though Fang Yuan could not see their experiences, he could sense their locations and differentiate them. Because of their relationship from Connect Luck, Chi Luck Sensation could detect them across all 5 regions. However, He Lulan and Ing Wuxia were nowhere to be found. From this, Fang Yuan concluded that Ing Wuxia indeed had a way to conceal his own luck connection. Actually, so be it if he does. But Ing Wuxia as a person is maturing, he will be much more problematic to deal with in the future. This was why there was no strongest immortal Gu, only strongest Gu immortal. The Gu immortal was the core. Ing Wuxia's matured mind, in Fang Yuan's opinion, was far scarier than whatever strong immortal Gu he had. The other party can deal with Qi luck sensation. Then in the future, I can only reduce the number of times I use this immortal killer move. After all, this was an immortal killer move. It required green grape immortal essence to activate. Once it was used frequently, even Fang Yuan could not bear the cost. This trip to Eastern Sea was rather successful, but his green grape immortal essence stockpile had already reduced sharply. He needed to replenish it. From Fang Yuan's perspective, the best situation was that he could find Ing Wuxia's location and exert pressure on him, or even kill him to get rid of the threat entirely. But currently, the situation was not as he wished. Fang Yuan thought about it. He could only choose the best alternative and focus on raising his strength, but he knew deeply. There was only one true inheritance of He Fan, but Shadow Sect has remnant forces in all 5 regions. In this trip to Eastern Sea, I did not get rid of Ing Wuxia. The next time we meet, they might already greatly surpass me in strength. Shadow Sect did not lack resources, and they had at least 4 Gu immortals on their side. Right now, Fang Yuan could only do his best and develop. When they met again, hopefully, he would not be left in the dust by Ing Wuxia and the rest. Fang Yuan took out perceivable Dao Immortal Gu. This rank 6 information path Gu worm was now healthy and strong. It gave off an alluring light. It had been saved by Fang Yuan. Breathing in deeply, Fang Yuan started to activate this immortal Gu.